Richard Vobes, welcome back to the channel. How are you?
Hello, Guy. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much. Very kind of you to invite me back.
Are you very well though? You've been battling, haven't you?
I have. You're quite right. I mean, it's standard response, isn't it? That's what we say. Is we go,
Mm.
oh yes, very well. Thank you very much. Can't complain. Mustn't grumble. All those things, and you try not to be a pain and offload your troubles on your fellow man. But yes, the last few months hasn't been fun, I can tell you, in terms of my physical condition. And it is a little bit mysterious. I've had people tell me I've got Lyme disease. Other people tell me I've been cursed. People have told me that there's a satanic spell being put on me. But in essence, really, I fell over in the van when we were on the land on our little piece of heaven. And as I was falling, I saw a pitchfork, which was on the in the van, with the two prongs uppermost. And I thought to myself as I'm heading down towards it, I don't fancy falling on that actually. So I
No.
twisted away and landed on a workbox instead, with a fairly hefty thump, but nothing that I would think was, life altering. And I got out of the van with whatever it was I was collecting, and I thought, oh, little pain in my upper thigh pelvis area. I think I've pulled a muscle. Didn't think much more about it other than that I dare say I'll be limping for a bit and then that be that. But over the next couple of days, I started to have some strange muscle reaction in which it wasn't so much in the pelvic area where I thought I'd pulled the muscle, although I could definitely feel that muscle had been pulled, but right across my shoulders, down my arms, down the backs of my legs. I seem to have got some inflammation on these muscles to the point where in the mornings, I would wake up as the man with rigor mortis. I just could not move. I was locked solid. And it was as if, you know how plasticine, the old, clay that kids play with, that if you leave it, it goes rock hard. And then if you make it malleable by using it with a bit of heat and movement, it becomes pliable. Well, that's how it was in the mornings. I would be like plasticine solid, and it would take such an effort to get the limbs working again, the fingers, the shoulders. And initially, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of pain.
Has that
And it's been,
subsided now?
well, um, I take a lot of CBD oil, which helps. But yes, I the pain is much more manageable now because I'm aware of where what seems to be muscle and bone compressing or inflamed muscles, hitting the bone. But it has made sleeping very difficult, and I generally wake up in the middle of the night finding lying down and relaxing intolerable. So it's when I relax, if I sit down for an hour, getting up is it's like watching a 90-year-old man. If something drops on the
Mm.
floor, I'm in slow motion trying to pick it up. And it's quite comical, I'm sure, but it's very frustrating. But
So what do you think you did? Do you think you maybe trapped a nerve or put your spine out of alignment?
well, I have seen very many people have been offering advice and helping me on all sorts of levels. I was determined, and I know a lot of people think this is very foolhardy, not to go to the NHS because, well, basically they're killing people. So their record of looking after people is not very good. And we know about pharmaceuticals. So I thought I would ignore that. And I figured that I'd be a guinea pig for the holistic way of doing things. Even though I was in pain, even though it was, wretched, I thought there's got to be an alternative. We're all told that the old ways, the old medicine, and all these things were very, very good. So I've had things like Clive de Carle's special chair that he does, Swift Wave chair. I've had use of his Tesla machines and bioresonance. I've seen an osteopath, chiropractor. People have done crystal healing, spiritual healing, homeopathy. I drink energized, structured water. You name it. People have come out the woodwork once they realized I was in this state. And I thought it was great to give all of these things a try because I'd love to be able to turn around and say, you don't need what we've all been led to believe that we need, that there is all these other modalities. But unfortunately, and I say this with a heavy heart, a lot of these things do not appear to have worked, or it's a much slower process. And I think the trouble with the NHS is we're so used to take a pill, gets rid of the
Yeah.
headache, gets rid of the back pain, covers up the symptoms or the causes, just deals with the symptoms or hides a bit of it, and then you've not really got rid of the problem, but you think everything's all right. And
Yeah.
I won't take the pharmaceuticals because it interrupts the gut flora, and it can do a lot more damage. Plus the fact, as we all know, they all come with side effects, very
Mm.
often including death.
Yes.
So,
Quite a severe
so
side effect, isn't it?
not
And
so keen on that one.
no, and you're quite right. They often just tend to mask the symptoms, don't they? For years I'd battled with my mental health, and they just pumped me full of medication to a point where
Yes,
at one stage, about 10 years ago, I couldn't actually drive anymore. And so I stopped taking them all. And
right.
within a few weeks, I felt so much better. And they still hadn't addressed the underlying cause. Um,
Well,
and
well, I was going to say, I mean, I know from people that I know, my son included, who's had seizures,
mm,
that very often they're just as much guessing and trying different drugs to see what will work rather than going, yeah, we know specifically what will happen. And I'm not prepared to be a guinea pig with these drugs.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. And that is what we are, essentially, isn't it? I remember the last time I went to a GP, which was a long time ago, that they went onto some website or program and typed in the
Yes.
problem. And it is a GP that I'm sat in front of, a general practitioner. And I kind of think, well, I know there's some amazing ones out there, but really, I mean, that's kind of a polite way of describing a jack of all trades.
Yes. I mean, I understand that poor old GPs have got to know so much so that
Mm,
when somebody comes in for their 2 minute consultation, they can, they haven't got time to really go into everything. And they never ask really about your diet and your lifestyle. They immediately want to give you some drug, which probably there's a little bit of a kickback if they promote this drug because it's more financially beneficial for the drug industry rather than actually the patient. So, yeah, I haven't been to my so-called GP for donkey's years.
I think 2020 was a wake-up call for anybody that was in any doubt at all.
Exactly.
So what about the curse?
Yes, I mean, people, people have worked on a spiritual said, I think, you've had some sort of curse on you from your detractors or something like that. And who knows, really? I mean, I don't give that huge amount of credence, but I'm quite a spiritual guy myself, so I'll just put myself into a mental asylum, no, into a relaxed state, and just sort of declare that there is a protective bubble around me. You hear people
Mm,
talk about this sort of thing.
mm.
The thing about this, whatever it is, I refuse to own it. I refuse to say get a stick or anything that will say, oh, you've embraced this. To me, this is a temporary situation. It's ridiculous that I'm in this situation. It's ridiculous it's ludicrous it's taken so long. And I refuse to have it. And so I've set myself at a distance from whatever it is. Now, this has annoyed many of my viewers who comment and say, you're going to find you'll get worse and you could be wrecking your body. You need to go and go to the NHS, swallow your pride and all of this. But it's difficult because I am quite a principled bloke, as
Yes.
much as one can be in this day and age. And, I don't want to be hypocritical. And so I would love to give the alternative health movement, who are desperately trying to get recognition as being genuine and productive and helpful, a chance.
Mm,
And so that's what I'm doing. It doesn't mean that all these different things that have been done for me are not necessarily working. It's just it may take a bit longer than what the NHS would do, but by smothering
yes.
the
Masking it.
symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's quite frustrating because you want to get on the land, don't you? You've got your
Well,
land now, and I've been following the progress there. So I imagine you're
yeah.
just eager to get back on.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm fairly, you can see I'm sort of fairly animated now. And looking at me, you probably wouldn't think there was anything wrong. But I cannot lift my arm above this height without severe pain. If I try to do that, it's extremely painful, a bit like a frozen shoulder. But it's not just the shoulder, it's in the backs of legs and various things. If one has to have this happen, thank goodness it's in the midst of winter where there's not a lot to do. We've had such shoddy weather
Yeah.
down here on the south coast, as I'm sure it is across most of England, that whilst we've got tons that we want to do on the land, we wouldn't be able to do a great deal anyway. It's been bitterly cold or incredibly wet. And that would hamper us anyway. And the last thing I really want to do is with inflamed muscles that will tense up if you're cold to make things worse. So there's been a bit of hibernation, convalescing in front of the fire, which has actually been very nice because I'm somebody who's on the go all the time. And this
Mm,
has kind of forced me to stop and just take it easy for a few months, which is sort of fairly unheard of, really, for me.
yeah. Yeah, you're always on the go. You're the only person that I speak to regularly that sort of mirrors me, and I'm always getting moaned at by Farina. All you do is work. You're up first thing in the morning. You're straight at it, and don't you ever switch off? And I guess it's just how we're built.
Yes, yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know whether it's just a sign of overdoing it and calming down. The one
Mm,
thing, though, that it's interesting, in recent months, I've been talking about how important it is to slow down, to have a more simpler life. Well, when you become debilitated, you're forced to slow down and
yes.
everything's a bit slow motion. And also, when you're trying to do things and moving is either very painful or slow, you are in the moment. And I've spoken about,
Mm,
living in the moment. You're so in the moment because you're aware of absolutely every inch of movement because your muscles are saying, don't do that, don't do that, don't stretch us like that. And you go,
yes.
yeah, but I just want to pick up. I mean, some mornings picking up a cup of coffee, I cannot get it to my
Oh,
mouth
crikey.
without having to help the other arm
Yeah.
lift it up. And I discovered the use of a stick. Somebody gave us some lovely walking sticks many, many years ago when we were doing the Bald Explorer stuff. And they've just, not been walking over the downs and across the country because we've been concentrating on the channel. Um, but now, pulling the curtains across in the morning, I just can't reach up and give them the tug. But with this stick, so, I mean, you learn lots of different shortcuts and you get
Mm,
round the problems, but obviously I don't want it at all. And so it's just been very irritating, but I'm still a half glass believer, and this ain't going to last. It's not going to stop me. And with grim determination, I shall shake this off and get back to the land very soon because we're now, we're in January and the few days have been actually quite mild. So
yes.
that's been good. We did go to the land yesterday as we record this, just to check things over. And I was able to drive. I had to drive in the driving lesson mode.
Mm,
I
10
have to
to
do
2.
this. Yes. I
Mm.
could do that, but doing the old, all of this that most people do when you really learn to drive, is not so easy. So it was all of this and just about getting to the gear stick. So, I felt confident and it was nice to do it because you feel it gives you a sense of achievement as well, just managing to
Yes.
drive somewhere. And even if we're just walking around the land and just sort of being there, because that's something that we forget to do, really. We go there with a purpose because we've got limited time because of the short days, and then we try to fit in what we wanted to do. Now, I can't do chainsawing and clearing and banging in nails or building and construction work that I want to do. So we've sort of, at least can go and take a thermos flask and have a cup of tea and sit in the sunshine when it deems to come out and just actually appreciate the beauty of nature on the Biggleswick farm.
Now, how is it going on Biggleswick Farm?
Well, obviously, the last couple of months have been very
Yeah,
slow, and
but
the English couple that we've been recording and charting
mm,
our progress has unfortunately had to cease for a while. Um, but I'm determined that we will be back before the spring because there's so much to get going. But one of the advantages, I suppose, is that we've been reading, watching videos about different aspects of being off grid, on the land, growing things. So we've increased our knowledge on things. We now just want to put them into practice.
yeah, and obviously I follow the channel, and you've been building some structures now. And I saw that
Yes.
you've now got a bit of heating in there. You've got a log burning stove, and you're doing all this with you're basically recycling, and aren't you? And using what you have around you, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's been it has been fortuitous, I suppose the word is, that the land has got a number of resources that we can utilize, especially when we were building our little polytunnel, which is it's really more of a greenhouse really for potting plants and getting
Mm,
them to grow from seeds. Um, and it was an experiment more than anything else. We had these spruce trees, and we had some willow, and we figured, well, we could make one part of the structure out of these spruce trees, which were quite firm, which we stripped down, and then we created the top curve out of two willows, all bound together in a very much a sort of bushcraft method. And yeah, we had to use plastic, of course, because that's what a polytunnel is made of, isn't it? Poly, as in
mm.
polythene. And that worked quite well. I can see that I'm a bit overexposed. So I'll just see if I can correct the picture a little. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? So yeah, that's but it's very frustrating at the moment not being able to get there if we have a good day. But we haven't had that many good days. So
No, we haven't, have we? And how? And talking of Biggleswick,
yes,
how's the book? How's it going?
well, it's it's gone actually really well. Here it is. It's a bit overexposed. Sorry about that. I mean, I'm humbled really that people have been interested in reading the book. And the feedback has been terrific. People have read it and they've come back. I mean, one person said, "Richard, it's a masterpiece," which
Oh,
you take that, it's a nice thing. Sure, it's not a masterpiece by any means. However, there is a lot of interesting, thought-provoking ideas in there that not everybody will agree with, of course. Um, but within fiction, it is amazing how you can talk about stuff in a way that makes it accessible even to those who don't necessarily believe the sort of the truth bombs in it, because you can enjoy the story and you can say, well, I don't believe any of that, but I enjoyed the story. But at the same time, it can make you think, and you can put the other argument in. So you can have a character who's pro something and a character who isn't,
mm.
and then you can put the arguments in and let the reader decide whether they which side they want to fall on, which is I think is a brilliant exercise because when you just do what do you call it, a non-fiction, the author is saying this is what I believe is true, blah 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 blah, And you rarely get the opposite side because the author's trying to sort of put his point of view across. Well, I think in fiction, because you are dispelling belief a bit, you can put both sides. Of course,
Mm.
it's still slightly biased because if you're still pro, but it's nice for the reader to see somebody saying, "Well, I'm a bit skeptical about that," because I think that people are skeptical at first until they discover the truth of things.
Yes, yes, it's something that you and I face quite a lot. And I was asked today actually by somebody that do I get much resistance,
Mm.
information that I share. And I said to them that I've stopped trying to convince people that they should listen to what I'm saying or read the information I put out there, because I think that the people that resonate with us are already on board, and we perhaps
Yes.
your book is giving them something to read that kind of reinforces their stance.
Well,
Um,
I mean, it's interesting you say that because somebody read the book and they said, "Thank you so much," because I felt so
mm,
alone that I was the only
yes.
one who felt that way. And then here it is in a book form. It's in black and white. It's there. It's not just somebody waffling about it. It's somebody's spent time putting it together, and they can refer back to things. And it's very nice. And the other thing is, I think that it's handy. People have been, let me put it this way, people have been buying the book. They've been buying two or three copies, four or five in instances, and as Christmas presents because it was available before Christmas. And often they're giving them to people who are not yet aware of what's
Mm,
going on, or they're aware that things, here we've got the Starmer government, and he's not really behaving very humanely to the people that he's supposed to be serving, and he's taking winter payments away from pensioners, and he's suddenly taxing farmers and doing all these different weird things. And so they know there's something not right, but they can't put their finger on it. Well, people have been buying the book and saying, look, I've enjoyed it because I'm on your wavelength and I've gone through saying, oh, yeah, he's got that in, he's got that in. Blimey, he's
mm,
even got that in. And others have been reading it, perhaps enjoying the story, going, well, that just sounds a bit far fetched. That's a conspiracy, surely. Oh, that happened to my mother. She took
yes.
this certain medical intervention and she
Mm.
reacted in that way, or whatever it is. And hopefully it makes them think, well, I wonder if those other things are quite as far-fetched as they first sounded.
Well, your book,
So,
although it's a work of fiction, it also isn't, is it? Because it's describing exactly what we are going through right now, what we are experiencing and living through. So it's full of
yes.
truth bombs.
Well, absolutely. I mean, some of there's a lot of questions in the book that the characters ask. So, for example, I mean, it's kind of an ensemble piece. Different characters suffer different problems. So, one of them might be evicted. One of them is evicted from their home. Another one is has bailiffs at the door, trying to break in and take stuff for no reason. There's a whole business about whether the council tax is a genuine thing or is fraudulently collected. And then there's people asking, why have we suddenly got lots of surveillance cameras?
Mm,
Why is all this 5G going up when it hasn't been really tested for health benefits? But who asked for it? There's questions about the 17, is it 17, 16 sustainable goals that the WEF have instigated. The questions that people say about, well, hang on a minute, this net zero, is it actually proved that man-made global warming is the problem? And who's doing it if it is? Who's actually causing the problem? Is it us recycling our egg boxes and butter cartons and all of that? Or is it big mass industry? And so there's a lot of questions about corporate takeover, about food, the provenance of food, what's in the supermarket food, is it as healthy as it should be? Then there's things about what happens in the local environment with all these solar panels that appear in people's fields and these massive, great big container-sized batteries that have suddenly been plonked in. And so certain characters have suddenly found that they've been mandated to either sell up or have these things on their land for no apparent reason. There's a bit about raw milk and even pipe smoking in the book, just to add a bit of fun. And it's written, I suppose, in a bit of a 1950s sort of style, but at the same time, it's very, very relevant. You've got Defrick turning up, you've got a truth teller giving his
Yes.
point of view, and of course, you've got the mayor and the council who are trying to defend the indefendable. And so it's nice to be able to write from the opposite side where they're trying to say, well, hang on a minute, why aren't they paying their council tax? Why are they questioning this? And other interior offices are saying, well, actually, we are a corporation. And it's fascinating then having those conversations where they're trying, as I say, trying to defend what is clearly a very mafiosi approach that
Yes.
just to take shelter in a house, just to be out of the elements, that you're expected to cough up money on a tariff that's been set by somebody else, and we've all supposedly acquiesced and agreed to it, and yet, many of the questions are, well, who actually owns the land that
Mm.
we were born on? And if the government weren't there before the land was created, they couldn't have created the land. So why are they charging this, and this? What's happening to our taxes? Is it going abroad to fight certain wars and all? So there's all within conversations that are going on. But I don't want it to sound like it's all very heavy. It's very light because I wanted to make sure that the reader felt compelled to turn over the next page and enjoy the story.
Yes.
And there's good things that happen, there's bad things that happen, there's funny things that happen, and then there's an answer, how I would see how we get out of this, um, as the story, as all these different characters start to come together, and there is an answer and there's hope. I obviously don't want to reveal the end of it, but it seems fairly obvious, really, I think. But people have found it very interesting. So that's the book. The
So,
town that
so,
wouldn't comply.
so it's been a rewarding journey for you then, because I remember when you started writing this, and you were reading bits out to me and sending them over WhatsApp, and every morning when I was walking the dogs, I would listen to them, and I sort of started to hate Todd. Um,
The mayor.
yeah, which isn't surprising. But I sort of almost wanted to become a follower and start subscribing to the young lad with the YouTube channel, and go and have a beer with the farmer.
Yeah.
But also you've got the home birth in there as well, which a
There's
lot of
home
people don't
birth,
cover
home
that topic.
education. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the whole business with the placenta and how
Yeah.
that gets recorded and all of that. Um, and yes, and then there's a bit really where it's difficult to describe this in a very simple way, but common law has been utilized in it. But then there's a change of tack because the the truth teller, as it were, I don't want to give too much away, who visits the town of Biggleswick and imparts his knowledge, he starts to learn. He's on a journey too, and he starts to realize there's more to the common law. It's beyond common law. It really goes back to actually who owns what and how you prove it. So there's a scene towards the end where one of the guys who owns a farm, he starts to build stuff on there for people so that they can live on off the land. And the planning officer turns up and says, "You can't do this. You haven't got planning permission. This is." And he said, "Well, it's all very well you saying that, but you only sell titles. you don't actually own the land. The crown doesn't own the land. You're saying you own the land and that you've got these rights, but you don't actually own it because unless you can show me a receipt from the
Mm,
creator, I don't, I can't take you seriously. And so there's this sort of, and then the planning office has to go back and this is, well, how do we answer these questions? Other than we've got bigger sticks, we've got the police, and we've got,
yes.
bully boy tactics. And we say, well, this is how it is. But yeah, so I mean, there is a lot in it, and you can read it as just as a fun book, or you can, hopefully it's thought provoking. And that's really all I want to do is to
Mm,
just get people to see, oh, there might be a different way of looking at the life that we find ourselves in, the system that has us wrapped up. Not everyone's going to agree with it, of course, and that's fine. I did have one viewer saying, I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I like most of it. He says, I can't agree with all of your truth bombs. It's fine. I'm not asking anyone to agree with any of it. I just hope they enjoy the ride, really.
yeah. And it's interesting you said a moment ago about someone saying that perhaps, that's a conspiracy and this is a conspiracy. And without them actually knowing what a conspiracy is, because
Yes.
I actually present myself as a conspiracy theorist because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm investigating acts of conspiracy against us. So it's kind of almost a badge of honor, and people have twisted it to become something that you can use to ridicule someone or
Yes.
belittle them, and that's the complete opposite of really what we're doing.
Yes. And it gives the impression that you're a bit susceptible to any old flights of fancy that
Mm,
might not be what we see. But that a lot of what we see in the world is a narrative that has been delivered to us. And so a lot of people have ended up with cognitive dissonance where they just cannot shake off. Well, the government have said this is the narrative, the press are all saying this. But when you start to suggest, well, maybe they're all reading from the same script. And it's very obvious to prove that when around the world, literally the same script
mm,
from anchors on TV have said the same words. And you think, well, that's all come from a central source. It has to. The coincidences of every
mm,
station set, and there are the videos where they've got all these different anchors reading out whatever it is about a certain thing, and it's word for word. And you just go, that's very suspect, isn't it? That some people would just still say, cannot cross that Rubicon, even just to question.
yeah,
We've seen what it's like when you start to question the narrative because everyone's running that way, and you're going, but there's a cliff that way. Don't
yeah,
you think it might? And they go, oh, shut up. Come on. We're going that way. And if you don't come that way, you're an idiot.
yes,
Well, I think those so-called idiots are now, people are beginning to realize they weren't quite so idiotic as they first thought. But people have got to save face, haven't they now? Because a lot of people, especially when it came to a certain medical intervention,
mm,
were very cruel if you didn't follow what the narrative was. But of course, the evidence is and the truth is coming out that perhaps it wasn't such a useful thing as we first thought. And actually, there may be a nefarious and malicious aspect to it. And I'm saying there may be. I, I
I
think there's
know,
more. Yeah,
yeah.
just
I
treading
think
around yeah, yeah.
we all
I'm
we
fairly
all know,
confident.
don't we? It's difficult, isn't it? Because it still appears to be a subject that's very sensitive, and yet we've all lost people, or know
Yes,
people that have battled with problems that they didn't have prior to taking the intervention. I lost five people that I know. One of them was my cousin, and I was absolutely destroyed on Facebook for sharing my views to the point where, in the end, I actually had my account closed because of some of the information I was putting out there. And a couple of the people that were really fighting back with me that I'd known for a very long time are no longer here, and they're my age. And so I I think that it's a little bit like David Icke. If you remember his interview with Terry Wogan when he
Oh
first,
yeah.
yeah, when he first sort of revealed that he had been, I suppose, in in his words, he had an enlightening experience and something spoke to him and he was absolutely destroyed on that channel. And he started doing
Yes.
the talks and no one turned up and he'd speak to one person in a in a hall and wonder why he was wasting his time. And now he sells out. People flood to read his books and to listen to what he has to say. And not once has he turned around and said, "I told you so." He's actually remained
Mm.
quite humble about the whole experience, and that's all we can really ask, isn't it? Or hope for that we wake a few souls up along the way, try to shrug off the people that ridicule and try to attack, and just be there for the people that do, like you've had, get in touch and say, "Thank you. I thought I was alone."
Mm. Yes, I mean, I think if we're just able to open minds to other possibilities, I'm not trying to force my ideas down anyone. A lot of people think I am. I'm just trying to look at things from a different aspect or question. And because if we all blindly follow, whatever, even science, well, is a hypothesis, or it should be. I mean,
Mm,
that's how it used to be, was a hypothesis until proved otherwise. And so somebody has a hypothesis, and the joy of science was now prove me wrong.
mm.
And so people would try to, and if they couldn't prove you wrong, we'll go, well, that must be a rule or a law or something. We found that must be a truism until somebody says, actually, I found a little chink in your armor. And that's how knowledge is increased. But if we all just blindly go, two and two equal five, we'll never really understand that two and two might make a different number.
Yeah, and they made a big play on that, didn't they? We went from questioning the science and challenging to being told to follow the science
Follow it.
regardless.
Yeah.
And
The
another
speed of
example,
science.
yes, and I think Graham Hancock is somebody else that's experienced that kind of situation similar to David Icke, where The Guardian did a big hit job on him when he started talking about the Younger Dryas period. And now these scientists that once condemned his work and saying it's pseudoscience and sort of claptrap are now saying actually he was right. But where's the bloody apology?
Yes, yes, they never apologize, do they?
No, they don't, do they? And
But
so,
I guess I mean, we're not there to be apologized to. I mean,
no,
I'm more than happy if somebody, down the line goes, actually, there may be something in what you're saying, and if it's simply that, that's enough, because we need the consensus of the population to change and just question things.
mm, yeah, I think we should question
And question,
everything.
question what we're saying as well as what the main narrative is.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that everything I say is correct by any means. It's what I believe at any one time. What's interesting, though, I always find this quite strange, is if you change your ideas, we all learn. We might set out a bit like a hypothesis and say, well, I think this is what's happening. Then later on, you go, well, actually, I don't think that anymore. I now think this is happening. People slate you. They say, oh, you've
Yes.
changed your mind, haven't you? And you go, well, that's because more information has
Mm,
arrived. I
yeah.
have now a greater knowledge on that subject, and now I don't necessarily believe that. Or I've doubled down and think actually the more information has proved to me beyond doubt that something is happening, whether it's chemicals in the sky, fluoride in the water, EMFs, and all of these sort of things. That actually, yeah, this makes more sense. And but people don't like it if you've changed tack a little bit, because then
Mm.
they say, "Oh, you just keep chopping and changing your mind." Well, that isn't that how we? Otherwise, we'd still be in caves, wouldn't we, rubbing sticks together?
Yes, yes, you're exactly right. I totally agree with that, I've said on a few occasions that I would rather be proven wrong, categorically proven wrong, than carry on believing a lie. So if I've got
Mm.
something wrong that I believe to be true, if I've made a mistake, if my research, I've been sent down a rabbit hole purposely, full of information that's false, I would much rather find that out and actually come out and say, I got it all wrong. And
Yeah.
here's the proof. It can't be, which it often is the case, someone else's opinion that just differs with yours. That isn't evidence. That isn't enough.
No,
And it's
no.
healthy to debate these things. But I've sort of given
Well,
up
if we
trying
all
to.
thought the same, can
Mm,
you imagine? If we all thought the same, what a boring life that is.
yeah. And you wouldn't be able to do anything or get anywhere because everybody else would be doing it at exactly the same time.
And the sad, of course, the sad thing is that that's what society seems to be falling into is not questioning at all and following the same. And now with AI, it does seem that that is it's taking away anyone's ability to use their own thought process because, it was bad enough when Google first came along. You're at a pub quiz and you go, what's the answer? Oh, we'll just look it up. We don't
Mm,
have to use our own knowledge. Now, of course, the next generation of just being trained that that's what you do, check it up on AI, and it's being thrust down our
mm.
throats. And you go, well, hang on a minute. Is there no thinking process in this? Is there no gut reaction? Are you not trusting yourself anymore? No, no, no. It's just quicker on AI, and it's in black and white. It must be
Quicker.
true.
Quicker so you don't actually have to do your homework or the
Yeah.
research. I've spoken to someone a little while ago actually that wrote a book on Tartaria. They might have written a few actually. They might be short, quite sort of small paperbacks, and they told me that they got AI to write them all. And I thought that the problem with that is if you're ever in a position where you have to give a talk or you're invited on a channel for an interview, because you actually haven't researched this yourself, none of that information is retained. So you actually don't
And
know
how
what
can
you're
they put
talking
their
about.
name? How can they put their name to something if they have admitted, well, AI wrote it? I met a painter. She said that she was a painter, lovely lady. Nothing, lovely lady. But she said, "Oh, I'm an artist, and I use AI to create the art." But somebody had to instigate, the three input things that she wanted, and then out comes this painting, which that you either like it or you don't, or it's all very similar. AI all looks the same now, very bland, even though they might be strange things. And I just thought, at what point does the artist actually have to have anything to do with the art that they're doing, other than going um, brick, window, chimney, give me a picture. Vroom. Oh yeah, look at that, that's very good. Because a child could do that,
Mm. And that's quite
but
a,
then the
sorry.
art world is a very strange world, isn't it? As indeed you know, and so better not get into that debate. But I just thought, if at least you've done something yourself
Mm.
and you can present it and you go, well, these are my ideas and this is what I thought about it and this is why I'm using this kind of shading or I'm using these colors or this spoke to me in a way. But when you just go window, milk bottle, chimney pot, and AI just produces something, and you might do that 3 or 4 times till you get a picture that looks, you can go, oh yeah, I'll put that in the frame. Who's really doing the art?
Yeah. And I imagine
But,
that there are a lot of people getting it to do their job too. And perhaps
well,
their coursework. Perhaps there are
yes.
degrees out there now that actually have been achieved on the back of AI.
Well, we're on YouTube, and of course, YouTube is now swamped with AI videos, AI
Mm.
voiceovers, AI research, and AI collecting all the stock footage and AI made up footage. And I mean, I've appeared in somebody else's video interviewing somebody I've never interviewed, talking about a subject which I wouldn't be talking about. And of course, it's not me, and it's just an AI
Dr. Hilary
version of me.
Jones, wasn't it?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I
And um,
remember.
and you just think, well, now can you watch anything? There's
Mm.
so many shorts on YouTube that we used to do lots of canal trips and things when we did the Bald Explorer. So still got a bit of interest in canal boats and canals. And the amount of these disaster canal shorts where a canal falls off the Pontyclun Bridge across the is it the River Dee up in Wales, or a a narrow boat is suddenly, doesn't quite get into the lock right and is tipped up and all. These things don't happen, or they do. They happen very, very rarely. But the amount of shorts that are producing this sort of content, and you're going, but this is just made up.
Mm,
How can you believe anything anymore that you see online? And not only from ordinary everyday people, but if they're using it, think of those people who want to shape the narrative are using stuff on terrestrial television, on news bulletins, and on the internet. And it's now become very difficult. And so I've come to the point where unless I can see a real person who's umming and ahhing and erring, and I don't believe it's real.
mm,
Anything that's slick, I just think is too slick. And therefore, how do I trust it?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
sad.
But you're right, YouTube's full of it. It's everywhere. And I prefer, like you, I prefer to actually see people talking, or at least know that it's a person narrating it. And you can
Mm.
tell straight away because it's always the same kind of voice. They can't
It's the
pronounce
same
numbers or
voices, isn't it? Yeah.
dates properly either. They'll
Yeah.
instead of saying 1066, they'll go, the year was 1066, and you know straight away. And it's a shame. And what my fear is, if we can do that, what can they do?
Yeah.
We're just given a
Absolutely.
snippet, aren't we, of what's actually possible?
But in the end, for me, it became there's no point watching news or keeping up with current affairs or even other current affairs type YouTubers now because I just can't have any faith in any of it. I don't know if, unless I see it with my own eyes, and to be honest, I don't want the fear. There's a lot of fear going
Mm,
on, and unfortunately, fear puts bums on seats, and so that's how a lot of people
yes.
make their money because they get more views. You start talking about the benefit of certain foods and going on the land, and stuff, things that which are the solution to half the problems. Nobody's interested. But people are
Mm,
very fascinated if you tell them you're going to die if you touch this or you do this or whatever it is. And so I rarely watch much now,
mm,
preferring to read much older
yes.
books because I don't always trust that new. I mean, some people may say, "Well, I bet AI wrote this," and I know, 'cause I
You're
know,
always going to get some plum out there
of
that says
course,
something like that. Yeah.
yes, but this is. I mean, this. It's not so much for you and I to be worried too much about it because we've come up from an analog world. But the next generation, or the young generation now that are going through school, which is, of course, a nasty thing for anybody to go through school in this day and age, because that's, again, a bit more brainwashing, have no, they have no understanding of doing research themselves, going to the library. I mean, in the old days, they'd go
Mm,
to the library and
yeah.
fish out original documents and have a look at these things. People don't do that.
No.
They're too lazy and it's so easy just to go and ask a bit of AI and what do you think about this? And if you know something about a subject and you ask AI, invariably the date's slightly out or there's some, because it's scraped the internet and it's got inconsistencies as well as valuable information.
Mm,
But it's knowing whether you can trust it. And for me, it's very rare that it seems to give. I mean, I don't use it, so this is a sweeping statement. I admit, but when I mean, browsers are now putting up AI. You do a search, and then the browser comes up with an AI thing. Even my email account says we'll give you a synopsis of what the emailer was asking. And if they're asking, "Hi Richard, I'd love to buy your book. How do I buy your book?" I don't need a synopsis of
yeah.
AI telling me that somebody wants to buy my book. Thanks very much. But I can't remember the original point I was going to on. Oh yes, where is the when you do a bit of research, where is the original research? Who is the researchers?
Yeah.
Because it's giving you a sort of synopsis of lots of different researchers. And I suppose you've got to go in and then say, well, who said that? How do you know that's true? Where was the trial? Or where was the research paper? Where was the original? And who published it? And then
Mm.
how do you know that research paper is even existing?
It's funny because you're very much like me. I think we come from that time when we had to write everything down because there wasn't anything else. This is currently I'm working on a script for a documentary that I'm filming with Iconic, and this is how I do it. You know,
Who
there's
am I?
pages and pages and pages. And the thing about that is that not only can I show everybody that all of my work comes from sitting down with a pen and paper and researching, but if everything turns off at one point, and I do fear that this at some stage might happen, because I
Well,
kind
they
of
do
think,
talk about it, don't they?
well, World War, if we entered a third World War, then surely that would be the first thing they would need to do to shut down that communication, because we can be got at by the pretend enemies of the state that are actually obviously all part of the same club and probably related. But so not only can I actually show people that this is my research here, this is where that book first was written, or that document, or whatever it is. But also, if everything does get switched off, I've still got it. I have
Yes.
everything.
Well, I mean, this is very much why, in my case with Biggleswick, is I didn't want to put it on any of those online retailers that have huge names and have lots of followers because A, it could be edited without me knowing when it's in a digital form. It could be deleted and got rid of. And so I decided, and because I do slate big corporations and these sort of entities anyway, I figured I've got to publish this to myself. I've got to pay for the printing, and it's got to be only available in well, not in hardback necessarily, but it's got to be available in real
Yeah.
paper and what have you, so that if the internet goes down for whatever reason, you'd have to round up all these books and burn them to get rid of them, which is, no mean task, I suppose, this day and age. But it means it's not lost, just as you
Mm,
said. And I think we rely on the digital realm too much. I mean, look at photographs. People aren't printing those photographs and put, I mean,
no,
some people are, of course, but not many people are printing them out
no.
and putting them in family albums. There's too many of them. People take picture after picture after picture of just their food,
I know. I've never
and send
understood
it.
that.
I don't understand it, but memories are on your phone, and you either upload them to the cloud or you lose your
Mm,
phone, and you've lost all those pictures and you haven't got copies necessarily, or if you have, you're sending them up to a mysterious server that's owned by somebody else
mm,
whose terms and conditions may well have the means to access, copy, and know all about your stuff without you knowing about it. How do you keep anything private?
mm. Yeah, and I don't
So,
know if you heard recently about Grok. I'm sure it's called Grok. It's the AI that's attached to X, Elon Musk's X, and that's actually been taking people's images, and I think children may have been involved in this. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure kids are involved, where they've been taking images of children that have uploaded photos of themselves, and then turned them into sort of pornographic images, and this has been happening. This Grok system has been doing it. And I listened to an interview with somebody on YouTube yesterday, and they were saying that actually, if you had thousands of images on your hard drive of AI altered or created images of children that are sexualized, then that doesn't actually meet a criteria for prosecution because there isn't a victim, because these
right.
photographs aren't real. So a crime didn't take place. And I thought, bloody hell, they're muddying the water there, aren't they? The fact that someone has these images, I would say, full stop. That's a problem. It doesn't matter what generated them, whether they're real or not. If you've got that kind of thing on your hard drive, there is an issue there. But in addition to that, people aren't getting prosecuted for having that. They're not serving time. You can go to prison for shoplifting because you have no money, but you can't go.
Mm.
People aren't being sent to prison for having this kind of stuff on their computer. And what the bloody hell's going on?
I mean, I think it works both ways, of course, because now you can have an image of yourself doing something, and you can say, well, prove that's not AI and made up.
Yeah, so we can use it as our defense. Mm.
Use it as a defense. And in a way, you can't help. At the back of my mind, I kind of think that this has been introduced to save certain politicians, let's say, that might have photographs of them in compromising positions,
Mm.
and can turn around and say, "Oh, well, that's just somebody's made that up. That's AI. It never happened." Well, it'd be difficult to prove all of these things, of course. In this day and age, how do you prove that anything on a photo is real? And actually, you can't.
Mm.
Even when photos were just a simple chemical process, and you say, is that that's not necessarily true because that's just light and dark on a bromide paper. How do we know any of that's true? It's very difficult, I think, to there's a difference between something
Yeah.
being the same and something being similar. Something that is the same is identical is the same. It's this is where I get a bit wound up with ID of any description when they say, well, you need to see a passport photograph of you, and is that you? Well, no, of course it's not me. It's a piece of paper with ink on it. And the light and shade of the way that ink has been put together gives a likeness to me, but it's not me. This is me, and there's nothing else like me in the universe. And a bit of paper that has a photograph cannot be the same, it can only be similar.
Mm.
And so, ID and stuff is a bit, I think when you sort of hone down on it, it's very difficult. Now, of course, if you're a baby that's been chipped, as indeed this is what they're doing with these digital IDs right from the start, or getting them to have passports where there's a chip on it, it's difficult because that is effectively a tattoo that's attached to you. And this is where it gets a little less easy to turn around and have an argument and say, well, that's not me, because they've almost sewn the digital ID to the soul.
Mm.
And that's why it's so important not to have these digital things.
And of course, a lot of it starts off from the first identification we're ever given that is official, and that's the birth certificate, which of course actually states on it that this isn't actually a true identification. You can't use
You
this.
cannot use, yeah, you
Yeah.
cannot use this certificate as a means of identity. Well, if you can't use that as a means of identity, and bank accounts, passports, and utility bills are all based on the fact that we've had to try and identify ourselves, um, the I mean, it's all relies on the mind and us
Yes.
going,
Belief.
yes,
Mm.
that's me. Well, there's just a bit of paper with words on that somebody else has created and has got, and they go, well, if that's you, fair enough, you owe us all this money. But if it's you go, well, that's not me, is it? It's just a bit of paper with words on it. Somebody else has created and given to me and said, that's it. There's your legal version of yourself. And you go, well, but is it the same or is it similar? It can't be the same because the same is a unique thing.
Mm.
It can only ever be similar. It can appear the same, but it can't be the same because unless you can suddenly multiply yourself and
Yes.
pop out of yourself, that might be the same.
Yes.
But so but these arguments, of course, may well have the logic behind them. But the dullards who are, the policeman at the door saying, no, no, I think that's you, is the problem because they've got the bigger sticks.
Yeah. And the fear, of course. The
And
uniform, the
and
blue flashing lights, the fluorescent
yeah,
stickers on the car, it's the fear. And that's the idea, isn't it? To keep us constantly in this sort of low vibration where we're worried about the knock on the door, we're worried about a brown envelope with full caps, name and address on it. that's how the system operates, isn't it? To keep us
And we've all been
constantly
trained to
glued.
believe all that
Mm,
nonsense is to do with us, and that these are benign people, and that they're a public authority and not a big corporation who have your treating you as the stock or something to be traded with. And that, as people start to wake up, we'll start to see the rubbish that this is. But all the time children go to school and the register is called out and they say, yes, sir, that's me, sir. And a name can only ever be a label.
mm,
I mean, you go into there's an example might be somebody in a cafe who goes to the baritza and says, I'll have a cappuccino, please. And the baritza says, yeah, fine, go and sit over there. I'll let you know when it's ready. And he calls out after a few minutes, one cappuccino. And the guy sitting there goes, oh, yes, that's me. Well, he's not a cappuccino,
yeah.
but he has now become a cappuccino because he says, that's me. And this is how we fall for the legal fiction. We go,
Mm,
oh, yes, that's on that birth certificate. Yeah, that's me. Mr. Jones, yes. You entrap yourselves because we've been
mm,
trained through school and everything else to think that we are the same as something written on a bit of paper. Maybe similar, but it can't be the same.
no,
And
I agree.
it's an interesting thing.
And I think also where we live as well, because you're asked, if you're filling out a form, or even if you're organizing something for delivery, you're asked
Mm.
what country you live in. But of course, we don't
Yes,
live in a country, we live on land. I
we
don't
do.
live in England, I live on it. I'm on it. I mean, I haven't dug a hole into the ground and built a bunker. I'm not in England, I'm on it. And I don't, obviously, we know the United Kingdom's a corporation. I don't live in that either. There's just a
Well,
legal,
how can you?
yeah,
How can you live in something which is really a concept?
mm,
And I mean, but even England is another concept.
yeah,
Because a land mass that's been recognized, let's say with a name, Britain, for thousands of years, or at least 2,000 years, Britain and various other names, we can go, okay, that's a land mass and we live on it. But the United Kingdom, every time I hear anyone say, well, in the UK, and you go, well, I go, where's that then?
mm,
This a kingdom, I mean, you know, a king's domain, isn't it? And you go, well, that's where the king has decided or has won boundaries of his domain. That's just, again, it's a kind of a concept because the land mass might be bigger. And then united has been united with other kings and kingdoms, and it's an agreement that this area is under my domain. Well, that might be, but it's still just a concept. Whereas, as you say, we live on terra firma. We live
yeah,
on actual Earth,
mm,
and we move about on Earth. And so, all the UK legislation is for those people who think they live in the UK. And this works for parking tickets and things like that. When they say, "Oh, you've parked your car and you've got this fine," I go, "Where did I park my car then?" And they go, "Well, is it this postal address?" Well, what's the PO? What's the postal? The postcode. Well, where is that? Oh, that's in the UK. Oh, well, I don't live in the UK. I don't park my car in the UK. How do I park a physical car in a concept that's in your mind? I've parked it on the earth,
mm,
which was here, by the way, before any of you came up with your concepts.
mm. That's very well
And it's
put.
only if you, it's only if you agree to it and you go, oh yeah, yeah, and it's in the UK and it's at a postcode address and all. I mean, a postcode address is just a reference point on a
Mm,
map.
mm,
But people are very quick to think that's where they live. It's convenient for Amazon deliveries and things like
mm,
that because everybody works on that. If you don't give them a postcode, you don't get your bloody parcel.
mm.
But at the same time, it's a concept.
Yeah. You had a guest on that said it was a while ago that said that he wore what different waistcoats depending on the scenario. So he would dip in and out of the system as and when it benefited him to do so, not as and when the system benefited. And I think that that's the way to do it. We know we've got to use the system to have a bank account and to, and to function to an extent. But we also, we should be using it to our advantage and not letting it use us.
Yes, I mean it is a shame that we have that situation because I would rather not have to wear the mask or the waistcoat of a something that's not me in order to go and put m money into a safe
Mm,
as one thinks of a bank account. And of course, it's not money at all. It's fiat currency. It's
yeah.
all, again, it's all made up. It's all promissory notes. It's all, again, that in it, that's another bloody wormhole. It's all an illusion that money has any value whatsoever. It's only got, these £10 notes, 10, £20 notes. They've only got any value because we've all agreed that a bit of paper that says I promise to pay the bearer of has that value. But if somebody turns around and says, no, it's just a bit of paper with words on it, I'm not accepting that. Give me
Mm,
something tangible.
yeah.
Oh, and it must be fairly close to that collapsing, which is why so many
Yes.
people are buying gold and silver and other precious metals
Mm,
or oil or whatever it is they're buying, a commodity that is real. Because if you're hungry, you can't eat a big
mm,
pile of bits of paper with words on,
yeah.
but you could eat, a load of apples.
Yes, it's very true. Yeah, it's very true. So if people want to get hold of your book, it's still your website really that they need to reach out to, or
Well, the thing
would you rather?
I would get, it's not so much on my website actually. They need to email me,
Right.
richard@vobes.com. And then I'll send them by return how to purchase the book because they're only available for me. At the moment, they're only in hardback, which is nicely produced with a fly cover. They're stitched, beautifully printed, and they are £20 plus whatever the postage is, depending on where you go in the world. And at the moment, I'm only using Royal Mail really, because from my experience, Royal Mail will not leave your parcel outside in the
Mm,
wet and rain, whereas a
mm,
number of these other couriers will just dump them there, ring the bell, or not even bother, and leg it. So I want people to enjoy the book. They're all signed. Everyone will be signed, and everyone, if I know the name of the person, they'll be dedicated to them, um, which is great. I did a quick search on eBay to see if anyone was flocking,
did you?
secondhand. Nobody, luckily, nobody was. There's no audiobook available as yet. I would love to do one because I enjoyed, as I said, reading them out and sending them to you. But I've still got quite a few from the original print run left, so I'd rather sell all those. And then I have to make the decision, do I print some more?
Mm. And you're writing again, though, aren't you? You've picked up an old piece of work that you'd started, and
Yes,
that's going to be, well, I guess the next book you publish will be based on that. But you were writing a book about pipe smoking as well. Is that, pardon the pun, is that on the back burner?
it is a bit on the back burner because I, when this, the amount of people who were interested was very humbling, and I figured that there, and of course people said, is there going to be a Biggleswick too? Well, there isn't so much. There might be a. I have got a book in mind, another book in mind, which will be about the land. So that's coming, but I need to get a lot more experience on the land myself. But the next book, I want to sort of concentrate on some of the things that we used to have that we've lost, that are in the analog world, which I think we dearly need now to have to put our feet back on terra firma, and the dangers of of heading towards a digital virtual reality and
Mm,
thinking that is living. I worry about the next generation,
mm,
kids who are stuck with their phones.
yeah.
So yes, I picked up an earlier piece of work that I was writing about, which is set in 1940 during the Battle of Britain. And it's written as a memoir by a lady who's now sort of in 2026 writing it. And she's sort of in her very late 90s, just short of 100. And she was 12 back then, and she worked on a farm, was, brought up on a farm. And the changes over 100 years that someone would have seen, comparing a story that goes on in the 1940s, and you've got all of that, but then her observations about, so she'll be talking about a certain thing in the main narrative of what happened in 1940 to her on the farm and various things, and in the village and the area. And it's almost two stories in one, really, comparing what's what's happened to the world. So, farming is obviously part of it. In fact, there was lots of farms supplying towns and villages locally, seasonally, and in with healthy, what was organic food. And she's able to now look and see how the hedgerows were pulled up, how farms expanded, how they turned into making commodities, and how the crops and the soil have been eroded away so that actually there's not much nutrients in it. That people are operating farms with one or two people with all these big, big machines, and that
Yeah.
farmers, have come into this point where they can't really fight back when a government says we're going to do an inheritance tax,
Mm,
because they're locked into these contracts. Whereas in the past, they weren't, and they were helping, and it was right at the beginning of
mm,
that thing. So that's just one aspect, but it's also the freedoms that people had, the community, the value of being in a small community where people knew who you were and would come to your aid and look after you. Old and young people got on very close together. And so I think there's a lovely commentary to be had, comparing what we have today, where people are stuck in front of screens and being
mm.
delivered a narrative from all angles, whereas in the past people would chat and they would sit down and they'd go to the pub and they'd sing songs, and they pulled together. And of course, because it's happening, the stories in the Battle of Britain, you saw the foe. He was literally flying over and dropping bombs. Now the foe is invisible, and yet it's not if you know where to look.
Yeah.
We know that the foe is the fifth column, really. It's it's our government, it's our authority, it's the corporations who are manipulating how we live and what we should do. It's the schools and all of that. So it's kind of the same message, but in a different fictional.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of using fiction because I am a storyteller. So, and of course you can dismiss it. You can go, well, it's a nice story, but his points of view are a load of rubbish, and that's fine because I'm not trying to say I'm right. I'm just saying, what do you think?
Yes. Yes. You're just starting that journey for someone,
Well,
aren't you?
yes,
The little spark.
yeah. I'm just starting up. So I'm hoping that next Christmas or Christmas coming, there'll be a second, you know, um, and hopefully it will, the design, because I know your books have the same sort of design, and it's nice so that people can go, oh, it's like a Biggleswick. We enjoyed that. It's by the same author. It's got the same, and of course, I like writing in that slightly old-fashioned style. And whether young people would ever read it, I don't know. But I'm obviously building an audience of people who loved this book, and hopefully would trust me to then buy a second book, which hopefully will similar length, similar sort of thing, to just make them think, really,
Yeah.
but in an enjoyable way.
Mm. So once
Who
again,
knows? I mean,
Richard@Vobes.com. That is where they need to
yeah,
reach out to get a book.
absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on. And I've got to say, you look like you are on the mend.
Well, yes. I mean, we're recording this over lunchtime period. You should see me first thing in the morning, where
Ah.
I'm
Yeah.
I am Mr. Cripple, but I think it is on the mend. I think it is going, and we just one of the things I miss, of course, at this time of year is the sunshine and vitamin D and the
Yes.
importance of that. And that is a big thing to keep your vibrations high, your
Mm,
optimism high, and your health high. And of course, we know the shenanigans of aeroplanes in the sky.
yeah.
Where do they put all the fuel they're supposed to carry? That's for another day.
Yes, yeah, that is, isn't it?
You
And
know.
yeah, a lot of people wonder that, and I do too. Yeah, to in the wings, apparently. Yeah,
Yeah, 60,000 gallons of whatever it is in the wings. Yeah.
yeah,
How heavy is that?
yeah. It's
But
incredible,
anyway,
and it can still take off
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, thank you,
absolutely
Richard.
amazing.
Thanks so
Pleasure as
much,
ever.
and I wish you well. I hope you make a full recovery bloody quickly, and you're back on the land.
Yes, absolutely. I will ensure I do.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye bye.